Church PTSD. What? Church PTSD. You mean to tell me, Dr. Holt, that you can get post traumatic stress disorder or complex trauma from being in church? Absolutely, yes. It's actually a term called religious trauma. Hi, I'm Dr. Holt. I'm the trauma doctor. Welcome to the Unbreakable Show. I want to talk about something that's very, very sensitive. And you know me as the trauma doctor, the trauma specialist, and national trauma expert. And you've heard me talk about so many different genres or what we would consider specialties in this thing called trauma or emotional trauma. I've talked from acute trauma, I've talked about complex trauma. We talked about chronic trauma, historical trauma, generational trauma, even uh, different types of trauma like relational trauma, all those things. But one of the things that we usually don't touch on because it's a very sensitive matter is talking about what we call religious trauma. And religious trauma is very similar to all other traumas. Remember, the Greek translation of the word trauma means wound. And so when we say trauma or add religious to it, it means, yes, I've been wounded, I've been scarred from a religious space or some religious organization, or yes, what we would consider church. And I thought that was a very important topic to talk about because there are so many people, unfortunately, that didn't just get wounded from the streets, that didn't just get wounded from the family, that just didn't get wounded from the home or get wounded from school or even at work. But unfortunately, sometimes people get wounded at places that should be the safest places for individuals, and that's the house of God. And believe it or not, dealing with different patients, a lot of people's trauma have come from a house of worship. And you know as well as I know that's not supposed to happen. But unfortunately, every now and then it does. And there's a lot of people today that is triggered when they go to church, when they get triggered when they are in worship. They are triggered just the thought of being back into the sanctuary because they have gotten wounded and have gotten some type of brokenness or some type of abandonment, rejection, or some type of scar from being in church. There's someone listening today saying, that Dr. Holt, you talking to me. And I know a lot of people, they miss church. They were born and raised in church. They went to Sunday school. They went to Bible study. They was involved in ministry. They sung in a choir. They were on the praise team. They maybe was a usher, a deacon, or even a minister. But some way in your journey, you got scarred, you got wounded in the house of God. Unfortunately, some people have even gotten to be abused, have really have experienced some deep troubles when it comes to being in church, and that's not where it's supposed to happen. And unfortunately, sometimes we have made excuses for behavior. We have made excuses for hurt and pain that we have afflicted on people. But the fact of the matter is, some people is not going to church not because they're hoodlum or they're the greatest sinner or because they are mean and hateful and sinister and wicked. Some people are not going to church not because they're wicked, but because they've been wounded. And religious trauma is really real. And there's many people to this day are suffering from some kind of mental illness, suffering from some kind of suicide ideation, depression, anxiety, paranoia, because they have been scarred and wounded in church. Which also leads me into one of the books I've written, Take Off the Mask. it reminds me that a lot of people are wearing masks. They're wearing something to try to protect them because they've been wounded in a place of worship where that shouldn't be. And that might be you listening, saying, that's me, Dr. Holt. I was talked about. I was mistreated. I was wounded. I was scarred. Yes, maybe even abused, unfortunately, or rejected. But the fact of the matter is, don't be angry with God because it wasn't God that hurt you. It was people that hurt you. But the good news is that God is a God of restoration. God is a God of healing. And even in the midst of our different traumas, we can rebound, we can reconcile, and we can be restored through our hurts and our pain. And today, I want you to know that trauma, just like any other trauma, yours may be religious trauma from church versus somebody else's trauma from violence in the community, but it's still trauma. And whether if it's trauma in the home or in school or on your job, trauma still impacts the brain. It still impacts the entire individual. It still hits the way you have memory in your hippocampus. It can still hijack your amygdala, make you aroused, make you always feel a sense of danger, keeps you in fight or flight. This still has impact, whether it was in school, work, or yes, even if it's in church. But this is the good news. If you're still alive, you can heal. If you're still alive, you can get your life back. If you're still alive, you can navigate and become the best version of yourself. There's still healing. The scripture says, and he was wounded for my transgressions, and he was bruised for our iniquities, and the chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. And I still believe in that healing today. And you not only can rebound and take over your future, but you can be the best version of yourself because you can heal today. One of the things I always tell people, you need all kind of mechanisms of healing. And how do I heal? Number one, you got to be able to be honest about your trauma. Not the easiest thing to do, but you got to recognize that you have a problem. You got to recognize you have been wounded. You have been scarred. You have experienced some rejection. You have experienced some kind of abuse. And then two, you got to be able to reframe it and understand that what has happened in the past don't have to rob you of your future. Three, there is something called resilience, which simply means that you can bounce back from all your setbacks. But you got to put in that work. You got to be able to understand you have an issue, and you got to have a level of readiness. In other words, you got to get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And yes, you can heal even from religious trauma. People have been branded, people have been abused, people have been knocked down, talked down, kicked down, all the downs that you can think of. But one thing about being rock bottom is I realize Christ is the rock at the bottom, and you can rebound and you can rise again from the bottom. You have to put in that work. You have to put in that work. Yes, God is there waiting to receive you and restore you, but you got to put in that work for your healing. And it will happen. You have to give yourself time. So every now and then you have to realize, yeah, I might need to sit down and talk with somebody. I might need to get a counselor, get a therapist, get a psychologist, a psychiatrist, or see my doctor, do what I need to do to get better. And then everyone that is successful don't get there by being alone. So that means, yes, there's power in relationships, which means that you need a support network. If Jesus needed 12 to change the world, then I know you at least need one to help you navigate through your issues. Everyone needs somebody, and that somebody is your support network. That may be a host of doctors and therapists, or family members, or friends, or someone from the community, or someone even in the church. But you can heal even from religious trauma. I'm very optimistic in this work because I've seen in MRIs what trauma does to the brain, but I also see that when individuals get love, when they get care, when they get treatment, when they get good pastoral ministry, when they have a support network, They have all these mechanisms in place. It's no secret what the brain can do when it can heal, when it can have neuroplasticity, and the brain can learn new pathways, new circuitry, and begin to fire at all cylinders, bringing brand new health and wellness to the individual where they can rebound. So, what I want to close on is if you're still alive, you got another 24 hours to be healing, to be better, to be resilient, to be powerful, to be impactful. Yes, you're talking about me, Dr. Ho. You just don't know my story. I probably don't have to know your story. I do know what your God is able to do. And you can be able to be successful. You can be able to achieve. You can be able to be the best version of yourself. And I'm excited about what you can be. I'm excited about the great things that's getting ready to happen. Finally, everyone has a story. And sometimes, in order for us to relate to people that have trauma, many times we have to experience trauma in ourselves. Because a lot of times we're trying to minister to people, help people, encourage people, motivate and inspire people. We need to understand trauma more than just a science theory, but experience it ourselves so that we can understand what it's meant to go through wounds and heal and become a better version. What our last thought I would like for you to think about is the scar. The scar. A lot of times we focus on the wound, but we don't focus on the scar. What? The scar, Dr. Holt, what does that mean? Did you not know when you look up the definition of a scar, it says a scar is nothing but a healed wound. It's a ugly looking flesh, part of the a scar is an ugly looking thing on your fleshly body that is defined that it has completed the process of being a healed wound. So how many of us have scars that we've been ashamed about? We don't want to show anybody. We don't want anybody to see. It's not the prettiest thing. It don't have to be the prettiest thing because it being pretty is not the point. The point of the scar is it is a demonstration that it has completed the process of healed wounds. Remember, the word trauma means wound, but a scar, as ugly and unattractive it may be, is a sign that you are not only a survivor, but you have thrived from every major setback, every major difficulty, every major adversity, hurt, pain, rejection, and abandonment. If you have ugly scars, that's a sign that you are healed from those wounds. So no longer do you have to hide behind that mask and be ashamed of your scars. Those scars are signs that you have overcome some of the greatest intense battles in your life, and you have the scars to prove them. So, my friends, be encouraged. Show those battle scars. We all have them. I have them. You have them. Those scars is not to be nothing to be ashamed about, and it gives you bragging rights that you have been through battles. You have been through tough seasons. Matter of fact, you have even endured the worst seasons of your life, but you came out on the other side with the victory. So I want to encourage you today that even with religious trauma, you can take off your mask and you can heal because you're going to always say, if we don't heal from our trauma, we're going to bleed on people that didn't cut us. And sometimes we bleed on ourselves. But this is the good news. Your battle scars is a sign that you have healed, you have overcome,